The elevator doors opened at 11:47 p.m., and Nia Carter knew something had gone very wrong. She was standing in the hallway of the 42nd floor of Wolf Tower, mop in one hand, heart going cold, watching Pamela Rhodes march toward her with the kind of face that arrived just before firing. 2 security guards followed without being asked. "Ms. Carter." Pamela stopped 4 feet away and did not blink. "Your daughter was found in Mr. Wolf's private office. Alone." Nia's mouth went dry. She turned her head. Chloe was 3 steps behind her, standing very still in her yellow dress with the green buttons, small hands clasped in front of her like she was waiting for a bus. "She touched his desk," Pamela said. "His personal documents. His quarterly earnings report." She raised a clear plastic sleeve containing a single printed page. In the corner, drawn in orange crayon with the absolute confidence of someone who did not think twice about it, was a sun. A big round circle. 3 lopsided rays. 2 dots for eyes. Nia could not breathe. Children are not permitted on executive floors. You signed that agreement when you were hired 5 years ago. Do you remember? "I remember," Nia said. "Good. Then you understand what comes next." She should have begged. She should have explained. But all she could think was that she had $43 in her checking account until Friday, and this job was the only thing standing between Chloe and a very bad situation. Then, the elevator at the far end of the hall opened. Preston Wolf stepped out. He was still in his work clothes, jacket folded over one arm, white shirt sleeves rolled to the elbows. His dark hair was slightly out of place, like he had been running his hands through it. He looked at the group in the hallway, without hurrying. His gray eyes moved from Pamela to the security guards to Nia, and then down to Chloe, who had moved a half step closer to her mother and was peering around Nia's hip to get a better look at the man from the hallway. "Is there a problem?" he asked. "Mr. Wolf." Pamela straightened. Cleaning staff brought a child onto the executive floor. "The child was found unsupervised in your private office. I'm processing the termination." Preston looked at the sleeve in Pamela's hand, at the orange sun in the corner of his quarterly earnings report. He was quiet for a long moment. Then Chloe moved 1 inch further around Nia's hip and looked directly at him. "Your son is crooked," Preston Wolf said, to no one in particular. Chloe considered this. "That's how sons are supposed to look," she said. Something passed across Preston's face. Fast. Most people would have missed it. "Send the termination paperwork to the shredder, Pamela," he said. Pamela's mouth opened. "Sir, policy clearly states dash." "She stays." He looked at Nia once, then back at Chloe. Both of them. That was the night everything changed. It started the way most of Nia Carter's crises did, with a phone call. She was on the A train heading to her shift when her phone buzzed in her coat pocket. It was Aunt Denise. Nia picked up expecting Chloe's voice babbling in the background. Instead, she heard her aunt trying to breathe through pain. "I fell," Denise said, "on the back step. My ankle. Baby, I cannot walk on it." Nia closed her eyes. "I'm coming." "No. You go to your shift. I just can't watch the little one tonight. I'm sorry." Nia looked out at the dark tunnel rushing past. She did the math the way she had been doing it for 4 years, quick and automatic. Rent, Chloe's daycare deposit, electric bill, the $43 in her checking account. She had not missed a shift in 4 years. She could not miss one tonight. She went to Denise's apartment first. Checked the ankle, swollen, not broken. She would see someone in the morning. Settled her on the couch with ice and the television remote. Then scooped up Chloe, who was already half asleep with orange crayon on 3 of her fingers. "We are going on an adventure," Nia told her. Chloe did not open her eyes. "What kind?" "The quiet kind." This seemed acceptable. Nia dressed her in the yellow dress with the green buttons because it was the first clean thing she found. She packed a small backpack, crayons, coloring book, 2 juice boxes, and a granola bar. Then she got on the train with her daughter and headed to Wolf Tower, running through a mental map of every place in the building she could tuck a 4-year-old for 20-minute stretches without anyone seeing. She had worked at the tower for 5 years. She knew it the way you know something you see every single day. She knew which cameras had partial blind spots and which guards made their rounds on the hour. She knew that the executive floors were for cleaning staff only after 10 p.m. She knew she was never supposed to bring a guest of any kind. She had followed every single rule, without exception. But Chloe's father had walked out when Chloe was 3 months old. Not with a fight, not with a scene, just simply stop coming, and then stop calling, and that was the end of that. Nia had been 23 years old and entirely alone in a city that did not particularly notice. She had built a life on what remained. One shift at a time, one decision at a time, every single one designed to keep her daughter safe and fed and warm. Tonight the options were bring her or leave her alone. Those were the only two. Her supervisor was a tired man named Ben who had his own problems. When she told him her aunt was sick and she had her daughter with her, he looked at her for a long moment. "Keep her out of sight," he said, "and quiet." "Thank you," Nia said, and she meant every bit of it. She set Chloe up in the cleaning supply room on the 38th floor. She spread a folded moving blanket on the floor, arranged the crayons and the coloring book, put both juice boxes within reach, and taped a piece of paper to the wall, at eye level, that said "Wait for Mama," in big careful letters. "I will be back in 20 minutes, Nia said. "You stay here. You do not open the door for anyone." "Okay, Mama. I mean it, Chloe." Chloe looked at the paper on the wall. She could not read yet, but she knew what it was for. "I know, Mama." Nia went to work. She was mopping the conference room on the 39th floor, moving fast, eyes on the clock, when the quiet registered. 15 minutes in. She stopped mopping and listened. No shuffling. No small voice asking for something. She walked back to the supply room. Door closed. She opened it. The blanket was on the floor. The coloring book was open to a half-finished page. One juice box was gone. The crayons were all there, except for the orange one. Chloe was not. Nia did not panic. Panic was a luxury. She went back into the hallway and checked the bathroom and the stairwell and the 40th floor and the 41st, and by the 42nd she was not walking anymore. She turned the corner into the executive hallway and walked into the scene that would replay in her head for years afterward. Pamela Rhodes in her gray blazer, the two guards in dark uniforms, the clear plastic sleeve with the orange sun, and Chloe standing right in the middle of all of it, perfectly calm, like she had been expecting someone to arrive. The rest happened the way the beginning of this story already told you. Preston Wolfe stepping off the elevator. The sun. The 6 words. Send the termination paperwork to the shredder. When the elevator doors closed on the way down to the lobby, Nia pressed her back against the wall and held Chloe's hand and let out a breath that had been sitting in her chest for 20 minutes. "Mama," Chloe said, "the man liked my son." "He did, baby. I drew it for him because his office had no pictures." She tilted her head. "He had a lot of papers, but no pictures. That is sad." Nia looked down at her daughter. "You drew it for him before you even met him?" "I saw his desk when I walked in," Chloe said simply. "It needed a son." Nia did not say anything. She pulled Chloe close and held on, and they rode the elevator down to the lobby and walked out into the New York night. And Nia did not let herself fall apart until Chloe was asleep and the apartment was quiet. She did not sleep at all. If you have ever had a night where one small mistake could cost you everything you worked for, you know exactly what Nia felt in that elevator. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in her place? And if this story already has your heart, subscribe right now. Nia's story is only just beginning, and what comes next will change everything. The phone rang at 9:17 in the morning. Nia had been sitting at the kitchen table since 5 a.m. with a cup of tea gone cold, running every version of the next few days through her head. She had looked at job listings. She had counted her savings. She had sat in the quiet dark of the early morning while Chloe slept and tried to keep her thoughts from the worst place. The number on her screen was unfamiliar. A Manhattan area code. Ms. Carter. The voice was pleasant and clear. "My name is Todd Barnes. I'm Mr. Wolfe's personal assistant. He would like to meet with you this morning, if you're available." Nia gripped the phone. "Is this about last night?" "He didn't share specifics with me," Todd said carefully. "But he asked me to tell you that you are not in any trouble." She went. She left Chloe with Aunt Denise, who was on the couch with her wrapped ankle and the remote control, looking entirely recovered in spirit. "You look fine," Denise told her. Nia was wearing a bright blue blouse she kept for interviews and a pair of dark slacks she had pressed that morning out of nervous habit. Todd Barnes was younger than she expected, with brown hair and a genuine smile. He met her in the lobby and walked her to the elevator, without making the walk feel like something to be afraid of. Preston Wolf's office was exactly as she remembered from 5 years of cleaning it. Wide desk, floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 walls. The city below in its gray and silver morning. Almost nothing personal anywhere in the room. Except for one thing. The quarterly report with the orange sun was on the corner of his desk, held in place by a glass paperweight. He had kept it. Preston stood when she came in and gestured to the chairs across from his desk. They both sat. He looked at her with a directness that was not unkind. "Tell me about yourself," he said. She blinked. "I'm sorry, not an evaluation. I'd genuinely like to know. You have worked in this building for 5 years, and I realize I know nothing about you. That seems like something worth correcting." Nia sat with that for a second. Then she spoke carefully. "I have been on the night cleaning team since I was 22. Before that I was in my 2nd year at school. Business management. I had to leave when I got pregnant." "Chloe's father?" he asked. "Not in the picture." He nodded. He did not push on it. "I applied for day shift roles twice in the last 3 years," she continued. Something about his directness made her want to be equally direct. "Both times I was told the positions were filled. They were reposted within 2 months each time." Something shifted in his jaw. "I was not aware of that. I didn't expect you to be." He was quiet for a moment. Then he opened a folder on his desk. "There is an open position in Building Services Coordination, Day Shift, Managing Vendor Communications, Facility Scheduling, and Building Relations across the lower floors. The pay is 30% above your current rate, with full benefits." He slid the folder across the desk toward her. "I would like to offer it to you." Nia looked at the folder, then at him. "Why?" she asked. "Because you have been here 5 years with exceptional performance records, and no one has moved you forward," he said. "No drama in it, just the plain truth. I looked at your file this morning. The pattern is clear, and it should have been addressed long before now." Her eyes went warm. She pressed her lips together and looked at the folder. "I also want to apologize for last night," he said. "The way that situation was handled reflects poorly on what I expect from the people who manage this building. That is on me to correct." She had not been expecting an apology. Not from anyone sitting where he was sitting. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was steady. "I would be very grateful to accept the position." He nodded. Something in his face settled, like a decision confirmed. "Todd will walk you through the paperwork." They both stood. She picked up the folder. She glanced one more time at the paperweight and the orange sun beneath it. "Your daughter," he said. "Chloe." She raised an eyebrow. "She told you her name?" "At some length," he said. The corner of his mouth moved. Not a full smile, but the edge of one. "She also told me my office smelled like boredom." Nia felt something small and warm open in her chest. "It means you need a plant." Preston Wolf looked genuinely caught off guard. Then the almost smile came back. "I'll consider it," he said. She said goodbye and walked out. And in the elevator going down, she allowed herself one full, quiet moment of something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The new role started on a Monday. Nia wore a green dress with a yellow cardigan and arrived 20 minutes early. Todd showed her the office she would work from, a clean room on the 12th floor with a view of the street and a computer that ran at full speed. He introduced her to 3 colleagues who were professional and easy to work alongside and treated her like she had always been there. It was, she thought, the first Monday in a long time that felt like something other than survival. She was good at the job quickly. The skills she had built over 5 years of managing time, schedules, and precise detail translated into something that looked like management because it was management. By the end of the first week, her direct supervisor told her she was the most organized coordinator they had hired in 2 years. She thanked him and went home and made rice and stew and told Chloe about it. "Good job, Mama," Chloe said. "Thank you, my love." Chloe was quiet in the way she got when something was working its way out of her. "Then, is the man with the sad eyes at your new job?" Nia turned from the stove. What man? The man from the office. The one with the sun on his paper. Mr. Wolf? He works on a different floor. His eyes are sad, Chloe said with the finality of someone who has made a determination. But he is nice. I could tell. How could you tell from 5 minutes? Nia asked. Because he didn't yell. Chloe turned a piece of carrot on her plate. And he said my son was interesting. Not wrong. Just interesting. Nia turned back to the stove and did not say anything. She filed that away in a place where she kept the things too complicated to sort out quickly. Preston Wolf, she was learning, had a habit of appearing. Not dramatically. Nothing like that. But she noticed him more than she expected for a CEO of his level. He came through the lobby some mornings when she arrived. He passed through the 12th floor twice in 1 week. Each time he stopped to say something brief and ordinary. A question about a vendor schedule, a comment about the building temperature controls. Each conversation lasted maybe 2 minutes before he moved on. She was not entirely sure if he was checking on her or simply had business that brought him that way. She was not entirely sure it mattered. Then Todd appeared at her office door on a Thursday afternoon with a cardboard box. From Mr. Wolf, Todd said. He mentioned it was for Chloe. Inside the box was a proper art set. Colored pencils in a tin case, watercolor paints, good paper, small brushes rolled in cloth, and at the very bottom, a brand new box of crayons, including a full-sized orange one. Nia held the orange crayon for a moment. Then she wrote a thank you card in careful handwriting, gave it to Todd, and took the box home. She watched Chloe open it the way Chloe opened anything beautiful, with her whole body going still first, and then this slow, widening delight. She ran both hands over the colored pencil tin like it was a treasure chest. Who gave this to me? Chloe asked. The man with the sad eyes, Nia said. Chloe looked up. He is trying to make me like him, she said seriously. Is it working? Yes, Chloe said, and turned back to the tin. That evening Nia was walking through the lobby on her way out when she found Preston waiting for a slow elevator with his jacket over his arm. Thank you for the art supplies, she said. She was very happy. I thought she would be. She told me you are trying to make her like you. Something moved in his face. Is it working? Very much so. He almost smiled again. She was starting to think that was rare for him, and that it meant something when it happened. She's already started a new drawing, Nia added. Of you, apparently. She says she is getting your eyes right this time. He looked away for a moment at the elevator doors. When he looked back, his expression had shifted to something quieter. Tell her to take her time, he said. With the eyes. She said good night and walked out into the evening air and did not let herself think too hard about the way his voice had sounded just then. She thought about it anyway, the whole walk home. She saw him on a Saturday morning in October. She and Chloe were in the park 4 blocks from their apartment. It was Nia's favorite kind of fall morning. Cool and overcast, the kind of light that makes everything look gentle. Chloe was at the edge of the grass, trying to coax a pigeon closer with a piece of granola bar, speaking to it in a serious, careful voice about trust. Nia was on a bench with her coffee and her phone, watching her daughter negotiate with a bird. She heard footsteps on the path and looked up. Preston Wolf was in a dark blue running jacket and gray pants, earbuds around his neck. He was walking the way people walk after a long run. Not fast, cooling down, taking in the morning. He was looking at the trees and not at her. Then Chloe saw him. The man, Chloe said, loud enough to carry. The pigeon left immediately. Preston stopped. He looked at Chloe, followed her pointing finger to the bench. His eyes found Nia's, and for a moment all 3 of them were simply still. Then Chloe walked directly toward him with the confidence she had around anyone she had already decided was safe. I made your picture, she told him. Mama has it. I got the eyes better this time. Do I look like myself? He crouched down to her level. A natural movement, not performed. Chloe considered. A little. But I made your eyes happy. Because I think they should be. Chloe, Nia said from the bench. She's not wrong, Preston said. He stood and looked at Nia. There was a pause that could have been awkward, but was not, quite. I didn't know you lived near here. 3 blocks. I run this path on Saturdays. I didn't know that, she said. We're usually here. He looked at the path ahead and then back at her. I don't usually stop. You stopped today, she said. I stopped today, he agreed. Chloe had retrieved the granola bar and was once again presenting it to the open air where the pigeon used to be. There's a diner 2 blocks east, Nia said. She was not fully sure why she said it. Maybe because he looked, for one moment, like a person with nowhere he urgently needed to be. And she understood that feeling. They have good coffee. Better than what I've got. He looked at her. Are you inviting me to breakfast? Chloe is, Nia said. I'm just translating. He glanced at Chloe, who was no longer focused on the pigeon and was now standing between them looking back and forth with the satisfied expression of someone who has engineered a situation. Then I'll come, he said. The diner was warm and busy and smelled like butter and coffee and the good kind of ordinary. They got a table by the window. Chloe sat beside Preston and immediately began pointing out everything she found interesting on the children's menu, including a cartoon pancake with a face that she had opinions about. The nose is too small, she told him. You're right, he said. All noses should be a proper size. I fully agree. Nia watched this from across the table and felt something she was not ready to name. They ordered. Chloe got blueberry pancakes. Nia got eggs and toast. Preston ordered coffee and an omelet, and then asked Chloe 3 genuine questions about her drawings, which she answered at considerable length. When Chloe had turned her full attention to her pancakes, Preston said, You mentioned you had to leave school. I did, Nia said. Do you think about going back? She looked at her toast. All the time. But the numbers don't work out. Tuition, childcare during class hours, keeping enough shifts. I've tried to run it every way. He nodded and did not offer a solution or a fix. Just listened. She found that she was grateful for it. She told him a little about Chloe's father. Just the shape of it. 2 years together, pregnancy. And then one day, he was simply gone. She said it without bitterness, because most of the bitterness had been spent over 4 years, and what was left was just fact. I'm sorry, Preston said. It was a while ago. Still shapes everything, though, he said. Even when it was a while ago. She looked at him. Yes, it does. He looked out the window at the street. I understand that. The past shaping the present. She did not ask him to say more. Something told her he would, when he was ready. Chloe finished her pancakes and then fell asleep in the booth, her head against Preston's arm, her small hands in her lap. He went completely still, like he was afraid to move. You can shift her, Nia said. I don't want to wake her, he said. Quietly. Nia picked up her coffee and looked out the window. The morning moved past outside, gray and ordinary and kind. She thought about what it had taken to get to this booth, this moment, this particular Saturday. All the long nights and tight weeks and careful choices. She thought about a man in a dark blue running jacket, going very still, so a 4-year-old could keep sleeping. She did not pretend, on the walk home, that nothing had shifted. 3 weeks into her new role, Preston asked to see her again. Todd called ahead. Friday at noon. Nia brought a folder of vendor reports she had been preparing, assuming it was a work review. She had prepared carefully. She sat across from his desk. He did not open the folder she placed on his side of the table. He opened a different one. I've looked at evening degree programs in the city, he said. Business management. 3 programs have built-in childcare partnerships. The strongest one is at Fordham. The schedule works around your current hours, which I have already verified. He turned the open folder toward her. I would like to fund your return to school. Tuition, fees, and childcare coverage for every class hour. She looked at the printed pages. Course listings. Financial breakdowns. A program overview. Before you say anything, he said, this is not charity. What you have done in 3 weeks in your current role exceeds what most coordinators do in 3 months. This company gains from having someone with your capability properly trained. This is what investing in people looks like. She looked at the numbers. She looked at the course schedule. She thought about 22-year-old Nia sitting in a business management class, actually loving it, a professor telling her she was one of the strongest analytical minds he had seen. She thought about all the mornings after that when she had told herself, someday. She opened her mouth. The word no was gathering, and then, clear as anything, She heard Chloe's voice in her memory from some ordinary evening at the kitchen table. "Say thank you, Mama." Nia pressed her hands flat on her knees. "Thank you," she said. Her eyes went bright and she let them. "Yes. I would like to accept. Very much." Something in Preston's face settled. Like a question he had been holding finally had its answer. "Good. Todd handles the enrollment process. You'd start in January." They sat for a moment in a quiet that felt different from the ones before. "You do more than the job requires," Nia said. "What do you mean?" "For people. You go further than anyone would expect." He looked at the desk for a moment. "I wasn't always like this, paying attention to what happened below the executive floor. I think I got very good at staying inside the work and not asking too many questions about anything else." He said it without drama, the way you say something when you have thought about it enough that it no longer stings. "I am trying to be better." She thought about the orange sun held under the glass paperweight. She thought about the art supplies for Chloe. She thought about the elevator at 11:47 p.m. "You're doing fine," she said. His mouth moved. The almost smile again. "Enrollment paperwork by next Thursday," he said. Back to business. But not quite, because his eyes stayed warm for a moment longer than the words required. It was Pamela who noticed. Nia could feel it. The way Pamela's eyes tracked her in the hallways. The way she paused too long in doorways when Nia was in conversation with Todd. The way she had started asking the office admin very specific questions about Nia's schedule. Nia kept her head down and did her work and told herself it would pass. It did not pass. "Here is what I need you to think about before you read the next chapter. Nia has said yes to every open door, every offered hand. She has accepted help without shame and given gratitude without performance. How many of us would have done the same? Leave your answer in the comments below. And if you are not yet subscribed, this is the moment to do it. The next chapter changes everything, and you do not want to arrive late." The HR meeting was on a Tuesday. The email arrived the night before, 10 a.m., 7th floor, attendance required. No reason given. Nia read it 3 times, then called Aunt Denise. "Wear the red blouse," Denise said, "and walking like you own the floor." She wore the red blouse. The HR director was a woman named Carla, who was calm and professional with her words. There was a representative from legal, and sitting to one side, looking at her hands, was Pamela Rhodes. Carla explained that a concern had been raised, the professional nature of Nia's relationship with the CEO. The concern cited her rapid promotion, the personal gifts received, and what was described as observed patterns of informal access to the executive floor. Nia listened. She kept her hands still in her lap. "Do you have anything to add to what has been shared?" Carla asked. "I would like to understand what specifically is being alleged," Nia said, "so I can respond accurately." Carla looked momentarily caught off guard. "The concern is whether a personal relationship influenced professional decisions." "There is no personal relationship," Nia said. "Mr. Wolf offered me a role based on 5 years of documented performance, which he reviewed himself. A gift was sent to my daughter through the assistant. Kindness is not a policy violation." The door opened. Preston Wolf walked in. He was in a navy suit. He did not look rushed. He sat at the table. "I apologize for being late," he said, as though he had been expected. He placed a folder on the table. Inside were the original job postings Nia had applied for, the reposting dates, and a side-by-side performance comparison of Nia against the candidates who had been hired instead. Ms. Carter was passed over twice in 3 years despite performance records that were, in both cases, stronger than the selected candidates, he said. The pattern in this folder is not consistent with merit-based hiring. It is, however, consistent with a personal bias toward a specific employee by the floor manager responsible for those decisions. Pamela did not look up from the table. The art supplies sent to her daughter were not charged to any company account. Preston continued. "I verified this with finance before this meeting. If there are concerns about my judgment in building a team, I am available to take them to the full board." He said it quietly. Everyone in the room understood what it meant. The meeting ended 25 minutes later. In the hallway, Preston fell into step beside Nia. "You didn't have to come," she said. The facts of the situation were being misrepresented. Correcting misrepresentation is part of my job. She looked at him sideways. Is that what that was? He kept his expression even. Entirely. She smiled. She could not help it. Pamela is being transferred to the second-floor admin team, he said. Effective Friday. I've also drafted a new position, Building Community Programs Coordinator. It's yours if you want it. Nia stopped walking. He stopped too. Another offer, she said. Another good one, he replied. I accept, she said. Thank you. Genuinely. He nodded. Then he turned back toward the elevator, and she stood in the hallway in her red blouse and thought about how some people fight for others so quietly that most people never even notice. She noticed. Gerald Wolfe arrived on a Thursday. Nia did not know who he was when she saw him in the lobby. She registered an older man in an expensive coat, sharp-faced, moving through the space the way men move when they have always expected it to arrange itself around them. She found out who he was when Todd appeared in her office that afternoon, looking like he had swallowed something uncomfortable. There may be some tension on the executive floor today, Todd said carefully. Mr. Wolfe's father is visiting, and he knows about you. And Chloe, someone at the board level mentioned it. Nia kept her face still. Thank you for telling me, Todd. Of course, he said. He hesitated. He's not a very flexible man. Understood. She kept working. She was good at keeping working. At 3 p.m. she went to the shared kitchen for a coffee refill, and that was when she heard it through the partially open conference room door. Gerald Wolfe's voice, pointed and flat. You are being reckless, Preston. A cleaning woman. A child that isn't yours. Do you understand what that looks like? She stopped. She did not mean to listen, but she did not move. I understand exactly what it looks like. Preston's voice. Calm. Careful. And I find that I don't care. You should care. This company has a public image to maintain. The company is performing at its best level in 7 years. My personal decisions are not a board matter. They become one when they create distractions. They don't distract me. If anything, I am more present than I have been in years. I would have expected that to be something you approved of. I approve of appropriate choices. Then we disagree on what appropriate means. A pause. I have spent 30 years making choices you approved of. My career. Where I lived. When I called. The woman I was engaged to. Another pause. Quieter this time. I am not doing that anymore. I am asking you to respect that. But I will continue either way. Gerald said something too low for Nia to catch. Then, she works for you, Preston. She works for the building. The structure is entirely in order. Nia stepped back from the door. She walked back to her office and sat at her desk and looked at the wall for a long moment. She pressed her hands flat on the surface. She breathed. An hour later, Preston appeared in her doorway. He looked exactly as he always did, composed, put together. But there was something around his eyes that was tired. How much of that did you hear? He asked. She considered being vague. Enough, she said. He nodded. He came in and stood at the window with his hands in his pockets. I'm sorry about that. You don't apologize for your father's words. When his words are about someone I care about, I do. He said it simply, not with weight or performance. She looked at him carefully. Did he leave? Yes. How do you feel? He looked slightly surprised by the question. He was quiet moment, then, lighter. I feel lighter. She let that sit between them. Good, she said. That is a good way to feel. He looked at her across the office. The distance between them felt like something making up its mind. Go home, she said. It's almost 6. He almost smiled. You're right, he said. And he went. The sound came at 2:48 in the morning. Nia was out of bed and in Chloe's doorway before she was fully awake. Chloe was sitting up in her small bed, her curls damp against her forehead, her cheeks very red. Nia put her hand to her daughter's forehead and felt the heat before she made full contact. High fever. She moved with the speed of a mother who had done sick nights alone many times. Thermometer, 103.4, fever reducer from the cabinet, cool cloth, small sips of water. She did all of this in 4 minutes, and then sat on the edge of the bed and watched and waited. 40 minutes later the fever had not come down. Chloe looked at her with heavy eyes. "Mama, my head hurts a lot." Nia kept her face steady. "I know, baby. I'm going to get you some help." She picked up her phone. Aunt Denise did not drive at night. Rideshare app, 43 minutes. The nearest urgent care was 20 minutes by subway. She was running the options when her phone buzzed. A text from Todd. "Mr. Wolf finished a late session and is still in the building. He asked me to check in as there was a light on in your apartment building that concerned him from the view. Please let me know if all is well." She stared at it. Then she called the number. Todd answered on the second ring. "Is everything all right?" he asked. "Chloe has a high fever. I need to get her to urgent care, and I'm working out how to get there." She heard muffled conversation. Then Todd came back. "Mr. Wolf says he is on his way. Please have her ready. He will be there in 12 minutes. Todd: "I cannot ask him to dash. He's already in the elevator, Ms. Carter. He says please be ready." She dressed Chloe in warm things, wrapped the blue blanket around her, and stood at the front door at exactly the 12th minute. A black car pulled up. Preston Wolf got out of the driver's side. He was in a dark green pullover and jeans. His hair was not entirely in order. He looked at Chloe bundled in Nia's arms, and something moved through his face that was not performance, and was not professional. "Let's go," he said. He held the back door open. He drove with focus and without rushing. He did not talk unless she spoke. He found the hospital and parked and walked beside them through triage and into the waiting area like there was nowhere else he was supposed to be. He sat beside Nia in the plastic waiting room chairs, and he did not look at his phone. He stayed. When the nurse came with updates, he asked the right questions. The kind of questions that come from actually listening over weeks of conversation. Nia noticed this. She did not say anything about it. At 5:17 a.m., Chloe's fever broke. She was sitting up in the hospital bed, eating a small cup of applesauce with a very serious expression she wore when she was tired but refused to admit it. She looked at Preston in the chair beside her. "You came," she said. "Of course," he said. "Because you're our friend." He held her gaze. "Yes," he said. "Because I'm your friend." Chloe thought about this with the weight she gave to all important decisions. "Okay," she said. "Friends come when you're scared." "Yes," he said. "They do." Nia was standing by the window. The sky outside was going from black to the first soft gray of early morning. She heard all of it. She did not turn around for a moment because her eyes were wet and she needed a second. When she turned, Chloe was already drifting back toward sleep, the applesauce cup still in her hand. Preston looked at Nia across the small room. "Thank you," she said. It was barely above a whisper. "Don't," he said. "You don't have to thank me for this." She looked at him. The green pullover, the early morning light starting at the window, the man who had driven across a city in the middle of the night for a little girl who was not his. "I do," she said. "I really do." They stood in the quiet of the early morning, and something between them was no longer uncertain. He asked, that following Friday, if she and Chloe would come to dinner at his apartment. He asked it the way he asked most things, directly, without decoration. "I cook reasonably well," he said. Chloe mentioned pasta. "She tells you more than she tells me," Nia said. "She is very generous with information," he agreed. They went on a Friday evening. His apartment was on an upper floor in Midtown, and it was large and quiet and had, as Chloe had predicted, almost no pictures on the walls. But he had made it warm for tonight. Soft lights, garlic and herbs from the kitchen, and on the refrigerator, held by a plain magnet, was Chloe's portrait of him. The one with the eyes she had worked to get right. He had put it on his refrigerator. Nia stood in the kitchen doorway and looked at it for a long moment. Dinner was pasta with tomatoes and fresh herbs, and it was, as he had said, very good. Chloe ate 2 full portions and then declared herself complete and went to inspect the bookshelves, which she treated with the reverence of a museum visitor. Preston and Nia stayed at the table with their wine. "Can I ask you something?" Nia said. "Yes." "Your fiancée. You mentioned her once, briefly." He turned his glass once on the table. "She was engaged to Preston Wolf, the CEO." When my father threatened to restructure my position in the company, she decided she had better options. He said it without bitterness and without dismissal either. 3 years ago. What hurt most was that I wasn't surprised. What does that mean? That I already knew, somewhere, that she was attached to what I represented. Not to me. He looked at the table. I had gotten very practiced at not noticing that, at keeping myself inside the work and not asking too many questions about what was real. It was easier. And now, he looked up at her. Now I ask questions. From a living room, Chloe's voice came through. These books have very small words. A pause. That's okay. I like the pictures. They both smiled at the same moment. I am afraid of this, Nia said. She said it plainly. I want you to know that. I don't open doors easily. I built my walls carefully, and for good reasons. And I am very aware of how different our lives look from the outside. I know. I don't want to be someone you help and then leave. I have already had that, and I built a whole life in its aftermath. I can survive a lot, but I will not go through that again. Preston set his glass down. He looked at her directly. I have not been good at staying, he said. I want to be honest about that. I have given years to work at the cost of presence. But I drove across this city at 3 in the morning, and I would do it again tomorrow and the day after that and every time after that. He paused. That is not what I do for people I plan to leave. She held his gaze. He reached across the table and rested his hand over hers. Not pulling, just resting there. I'm not going anywhere, Nia, he said. She looked at his hand. She turned her hand over and held his. Okay, she said, and then quietly, okay. From a living room, I am ready for dessert now. They both laughed. The weight of the moment turned into something softer and warmer. The kind of feeling that does not burn itself out in a night, but settles in and stays. There is ice cream in the freezer. Preston called toward the living room. I will wait, Chloe called back. I am being patient. He looked at Nia across the table and she looked at him, and neither of them looked away. 3 months later, January had turned into February, and the city was cold and sharp and clear. Nia was in her 2nd month of evening business management classes at Fordham, and she was doing well. She came home from Tuesday and Thursday classes with her mind full in the way it had not been since she was 22, that good fullness that comes from learning things you know matter. Her role as Building Community Programs Coordinator had expanded twice since December. She had proposed a partnership between Wolf Tower and 3 local nonprofits, connecting building resources with community programs in the surrounding neighborhoods. Preston had approved the proposal in a single meeting and told her it was the best community initiative the building had undertaken. She framed the approval memo and put it on the refrigerator next to Chloe's portrait. Chloe called Preston Press. No one could say exactly when this had started. It simply arrived one day fully formed, the way Chloe's decisions often did. Press. He answered to it without hesitation every single time, and Nia found this unreasonably moving every single time she saw it happen. He had dinner with them on Tuesdays. He texted on Thursday evenings to ask how class went. He showed up on Saturday mornings for the park and the diner with the small-nosed pancake cartoon that Chloe still had opinions about. He had put a plant in his office. He had put pictures on his walls at home, mostly Chloe's work. Gerald Wolfe had not returned to the tower. He had called Preston twice in the past month, which was, by Preston's account, more than he had called in the previous 6. He had not said anything negative about Nia on either call. On the second call he had asked about Chloe, stiffly and briefly, but he had asked. He'll get there, Preston had said. He doesn't have to, Nia had replied. I know, but he will anyway. Aunt Denise had fully recovered and referred to Preston as that nice young man, with a certainty that had moved beyond opinion into fact. She had also informed Nia, on 3 separate occasions, that she approved, as though her approval were the thing Nia had been waiting on. Pamela was working well on the 2nd floor team. The cloud she had tried to cast was entirely gone. Todd had stopped looking like he was managing a complicated situation and had started looking like someone who showed up to work and liked what he found there. On the last Sunday of February, Preston suggested Central Park. The morning was bright and cold, the sky a sharp, clean blue that came in late winter when the city suddenly looked new. They walked the path near the southern end, Chloe ahead of them in her red coat and yellow knit hat, covering ground with the urgent energy of a 4-year-old who had decided today was important. Nia was in her green winter jacket. Preston walked beside her in his navy coat, close and easy, the way they had been walking for 3 months. He was quiet for a while. She let him be. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "You always ask first," she said. "Just ask." He took 2 more steps. "Then, I want a future with you. With you and Chloe. Not as a plan or a decision, but as a choice I make every day. I want to be the person who shows up. 4 Tuesday dinners and Thursday check-ins and Saturday mornings and 3 a.m. emergencies and all the ordinary days in between." He paused. "I know this is not small. I know what it means to ask it. I just need to know if you would choose it too." Nia looked at Chloe, 20 feet ahead, crouched in front of a bush and examining something with total focus. She looked at the man beside her. She thought about the elevator at 11:47 p.m., the orange sun under the glass paperweight, a dark green pullover at her front door at 12 minutes past the call, a table between 2 people who told each other the truth, a hand held across a kitchen table. She thought about all the ways she had told herself to be careful, and then she thought about what careful had cost her, and what it had protected her from, and what it could never have given her. "I would more than consider it," she said. He waited. "Yes," she said clearly. "I choose this. I choose you." He looked at her. Something open moved across his face, the kind of openness that had not been there when she first walked into his office, and he was the man with the sad eyes and the desk full of papers. He took her hand. She let him, and she held on. Chloe turned around from the bush. She saw their hands. Her face went absolutely brilliant. Finally, she said, "Were you waiting?" Preston called. "For a very long time," Chloe said, with the gravity of someone much older. Then she turned and kept walking, ahead of them on the path, in her red coat and yellow hat in the February sunshine. They walked after her, the 3 of them, in the cold, bright morning. The path stretched ahead. The city moved around them the way it always did, without noticing, without caring. And none of that mattered at all compared to this. 2 people choosing each other, and a little girl with a box of crayons who had seen it coming from the very beginning.